On behalf of the province of Manitoba, I offer sincere condolences to the family, friends, and community members who lost two of our own. The news of this loss of life changes what was an emergency into a tragedy. And as Manitobans, we join those affected in your time of mourning. The flags are flying at half-mast here at the Manitoba Legislature as a small gesture towards the sympathies that we feel and how this latest turn in this year's wildfire situation hits on a different emotional level. Yesterday and into this morning, the folks on the front lines have been standing up and responding to the call of duty above and beyond. And I know that the average everyday Manitoban is talking about what's happening, and we're changing our plans for this coming long weekend. And so a big part of the message today is asking folks who I know want to do the right thing and want to do what we can to help, to listen to evacuation orders. Particularly the latest orders that are coming in the Whiteshell Provincial Park. No matter where you are in Manitoba, we're also asking no fires, please. Any fire that goes out of control, even in an area that's not dealing with wildfire, could potentially pull resources away from the front lines where we urgently need help. And of course, you know, May Long is often a special time. This will be a May Long where we're asking for rain. Maybe unlike other years. But whatever we can do to ensure that emergency services and first responders can help respond to the very serious situation in Manitoba right now are things that we can do as the average everyday Manitoban to help make a difference for our fellow provincial citizens through their times of need right now. When we're talking about the situation and the current state of play, there were additional evacuations last night. The community of Woodridge, just I guess south of the Sandylands area in Manitoba, was evacuated. It's about 300 people that we're talking about here, which means that today, just looking at the amount of people registered, it's over 1,000. That is probably a low number because not everyone has registered with your local reception centers. But we do ask folks, if you are out, to please register. It helps us more than anything to be able to account for people when it comes to safety. But also, very importantly, it helps to make sure that people are going to get the emergency social services and other supports that you need while you're out of your homes. At the same time that we have more than 1,000 Manitobans out of our homes, in Winnipeg and other communities in southern Manitoba, we're also hosting more than 1,200 people from Ontario. And so there are a ton of people stepping up, not just on the front lines, but also just by being good hosts and showing that friendly Manitoban hospitality right now. So again, please obey evacuation orders. No fires, please, even if there is not an official fire ban in your part of the province. And in order to back up these measures, later this morning, the province of Manitoba will be declaring a state of emergency in the Whiteshell Provincial Park. That will allow those who work in the Park Service and others in that area to have the emergency powers that they need to keep you safe. It will also help to ensure that the evacuation, which will be taking place today, will be able to proceed in a way that keeps Manitobans safe, keeps first responders safe, and allows us to fight the wildfire situation with a lot of the efficiency that's required. So with that in mind, I want to thank all the firefighters, the folks from the Manitoba Wildfire Service, folks who've joined us from other provinces, people from local fire departments who've been stepping up to fight the blazes in many regions of Manitoba. I also want to thank the local government leaders who've been that first layer of response, both when it comes to assessing and fighting fires in regions like Lac du Bonnet, but also to be that first line of welcome and support for people who have been forced out of their homes by these fires. I cannot say enough about the prep work and the planning that our municipal and local leaders have been doing, the local fire chiefs included. And when you see the effectiveness of their response, it really speaks to not only that lead work that they did, but also their ability to respond calmly and effectively under pressure. So on behalf of the province of Manitoba, we thank you. I also want to thank the evacuees who are being patient and who are working with our officials and ensuring that we're just going to put our collective interests as Manitobans first and foremost when it comes to safety and preserving lives, livelihoods, and property. And of course, to everybody who's hosting evacuees in Winnipeg, in Altona, in Morris, in Steinbach, and other communities across the province, I want to say thanks for stepping up during people's time of need. So this May long weekend is going to be challenging in Manitoba. Not only are we dealing with wildfires in the east where we could use a lot of rain to help us out, we're also dealing with an overland flood warning in western Manitoba as a result of too much precipitation potentially coming in that part of the province. So this May long weekend is certainly going to be something that a lot of families have looked forward to. But I also want to ask that we all work together during this difficult period to make sure that our emergency services and first responders have the space and the capacity to respond to some really serious situations across Manitoba. So perhaps some plans need to change, some reservations in the White Shell will be refunded, but these are simple things that we can do as Manitobans to help our fellow citizens get through some very tough times. So with that in mind, perhaps I'll turn it over to Kristen with a bit of an update from the Wildfire Service.
Thank you, Premier. Good morning. I'm Kristen Hayward. I'm the Assistant Deputy Minister responsible for the Wildfire Service with Natural Resources and Indigenous Futures. The overall wildfire situation in Manitoba as of this morning is that we have 21 active fires burning. We've had 80 fires to date, and the 20-year average number of fires to date is 48. So you can see that as of today, we are well above average for this time of year. I'll just run through a bit of an update on some of our fires of note, beginning with Fire East 57 in the Arm of Piney. As the Premier referenced, this fire did result in the evacuation of the community of Woodridge last evening. The fire is currently out of control and around 7,000 hectares. Fortunately, it sounds like that area did receive some rain last evening. We're still waiting on reports of how much rain fell over the specific fire, but we'll take anything we can get at this point. Moving on to, I'll go in numerical order, so Fire 61 near Bird River. Again, very active fire yesterday. At yesterday's press conference, I talked about the intensity of this fire. It remained very intense throughout yesterday. Thick smoke was really hampering our efforts to get on top of the fire with air support, so we shifted our focus to value protection efforts for the properties where it was safe for us to get in and do that work. That fire is still expected to be over 100,000 hectares. I don't have a current updated map on the size of that fire for you this morning. Fire 62 near Lac de Bonnie is still listed as out of control at about 4,000 hectares. Crews have been able to make good progress on that fire. It hasn't been as intense as the Bird River fire, so we are able to put a lot of resources on that and make good progress, but I will still remind folks it is out of control and an active wildfire zone, and we need people to stay out of the area. And then finally, Kenora 20, which we are going to be numbering in Manitoba as East 63. That's the fire near Ingolf, Ontario. Ontario's map shows the fire is about 23,000 hectares. It is out of control. The focus on both sides of the border has been on value protection. Ontario has been doing value protection of properties there for a number of days. On the Manitoba side, on the White Shell, we are doing assessments of which properties need to be protected and deploying resources in collaboration with the Office of the Fire Commissioner to start some of that work. The fire has crossed the Manitoba border. I don't have, at this point in time, an update on exactly how far into Manitoba it moved overnight last night, but that information can come out throughout the day. And then finally, I'll just mention, we currently have 40 firefighters from BC in the province. They've been deployed to the West 4 fire at the Paw and OCN. There is still some important work that needs to happen on that fire to ensure that any hotspots are taken care of. So crews are finishing up some of that work right now. If there is an opportunity to redeploy some of those staff to the eastern region, we are certainly looking at doing that. We are grateful to BC for their support. And yesterday, we also made a request through the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Centre for an additional 80 firefighters to come to Manitoba. We are hopeful that we will be receiving those from across Canada. All jurisdictions participate in that resource exchange, but I don't have any details at this time on confirmation of how many or where they will be coming from. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, we'll go to Christine with an update from emergency measures.
Thank you, Premier. So Manitoba EMO does continue to coordinate response with local authorities, provincial and federal partners. We have deployed regional emergency coordinators to the RM of Alexander, Lac-du-Bonny, and the RM of Piney to provide support to those local authorities in coordinating their response. Today, we have announced closure of the Whiteshell Provincial Park to come into effect at 9 a.m. Everyone will need to be out by 1 p.m. today. So we are asking Manitobans to please cooperate with park officials and local authorities in exiting the park at 1 p.m. Please listen to their directions. And we are asking Manitobans to please provide space to those responding to this event. Like we said, this situation is very dynamic. We are asking Manitobans to monitor messaging from local authorities and to heed their advice and direction and not delay responding as they direct you to. Thank you.
All right, thanks to you both. We can open it up to questions in the room here.
Monsieur Kinew, quel est votre message pour les familles et les personnes affectées par les feux?
Bien, premièrement, je suis très désolé de ce qui est arrivé. Toutes nos condoléances sont avec les familles et puis les amis qui ont perdu ces personnes. Et puis, en tant que le premier ministre du Manitoba, quand on perd de la vie, ça change une situation d'une situation d'urgence à une tragédie.
With 2 people losing their lives, and we're hearing other stories of people leaving these areas and having very close calls, should evacuation orders, or could have they been issued sooner?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is, as I just said in French, what comes to mind is that, when you lose lives, it changes the situation from an emergency to a tragedy. And when we have local leaders stepping up and declaring that an area needs to be evacuated, when you have firefighters going into areas like that and putting themselves in danger, I think it's very, very important for the rest of us as Manitobans to show respect for that work and to just give the space for that to proceed. And so I think the big message that we have here today is this is a really serious situation we're in Manitoba right now. And, the average person I know wants to help. How can we do so? Let's just follow the orders, work with officials, whether they're provincial or local government officials, and make sure that we're doing what we can to keep each other safe.
Why weren't evacuation orders sent out to people's cell phones? I mean, I know some of these areas won't have cell service, but is that something that could have been done in a situation?
That is a tool that has been part of the discussion of being used. When we talk about the response, we're talking about following a plan that has been set up and drilled and practiced. And because of that prep work, we don't necessarily want to change, I guess, the MO unless there's a serious, call for that to happen. So I can tell you that the idea of putting out an emergency alert was part of the discussions that we've had. But in the first instance, we go with the plan that's been drilled locally.
There's some confusion that kind of cropped up yesterday with the Whiteshell evacuation orders. Can you just explain the reasoning for evacuating the entire park? As some people in kind of the south area, Falcon Lake, might think that the fire is still far away. Just explain the reasoning behind evacuating the whole park.
Well, I could provide a bit of a maybe an operational, but then I can talk about the big picture explanation behind that. And you know, Christine, I think, did a wonderful job yesterday explaining why this order was being triggered. So we hear the on-the-ground local expertise of people who work in the park. And, you know, they give us an update there. It's a very serious situation. As we were going through the day yesterday, you had maybe 30 of the 239 permanent residents being forced out. And so then it becomes a conversation not just with the Parks branch, but also with EMO, with the Wildfire Service, and they bring their expertise to bear. We're giving you an update today that says there are several fires out of control in this region. The Whiteshell Provincial Park has limited number of access roads. And bringing this to the bigger picture, we lost lives in Manitoba yesterday. This is a serious situation, and I think everyone will understand that we are going to definitely take the cautious and safety-minded approach in this situation. And so that's why, beyond the update that was shared yesterday about the closure and evacuation, we're going that additional step of declaring a state of emergency in the Whiteshell, which will give additional powers to be able to just ensure not only that the evacuation moves forward, but as we fight fire in the region, that the firefighters are able to do what they need to do in order to keep people safe and to protect structures and to do the value protection, as you hear spoken about.
Have you considered a province-wide state of emergency?
You know, everything's always, you know, open in terms of tools in the toolbox, but at this point, we have the tools that we need to respond. I can tell you that some of the other discussions that are underway are talking about those, you know, considerations like the financial assistance piece and potentially looking at the federal program there. So these are all tools that are in the toolbox. The message that we're sharing in terms of the tools that we have, the way we can make a difference right now is no fires, state of emergency in the Whiteshell, and let's listen and comply when a local official or a provincial official comes forward and asks for your help with something.
Regarding the additional firefighters, is it realistically how soon could help arrive from outside of the province?
Yeah, we had a good discussion yesterday with Premier Ford in Ontario, and he's certainly willing to help. It's a bit of a balancing act, I think, for the other jurisdictions who are dealing with their own firefighting situations. We can see right on the other side of the Ontario border, there's a serious situation there with more than 1,200 people out. So in the conversations earlier today, we were hopeful maybe in the latter part of this long weekend that we could see some of those resources start to arrive.
How many people does the Whiteshell closure impact? Like, how many people are there that would have to leave?
Yeah, well, the 239 permanent residents, like year-round residences, just in case my elocution's not making that clear. That provides you a baseline. On top of that, you got the commercial operators. So we're going to be looking to ask everyone to leave, with the exception of those really critically important park staff, as well as those necessary to fight the fires.
Kristen, there is rain, but the forecast is calling for east winds 30 gusting to 50. How problematic could that be for that fire along the Manitoba-Ontario border? You mentioned it had crossed the border last evening.
That's definitely not the wind direction or speed that we were wanting. We're definitely going to be watching that and doing some of our own forecasting and analysis today to better understand what that might mean throughout the day and into tomorrow as well.
Did that play into the park closing, like that wind?
certainly whenever we make recommendations on actions that need to be taken, we look at what are the current conditions, the forecasted conditions, what are the, what is the resource capacity, what are we expecting in that area for, in this case, it's a cottage area, the May long weekend, looking at that and how that could possibly impact our ability if something happened. So definitely weather and that forecast is something we're always looking at when making those types of recommendations.
You commented yesterday about the rain that was predicted. Maybe it might not be enough to make an appreciable difference. Has that changed, or is that still the outlook or the view for the days ahead?
It's pretty consistent still, unfortunately. Yeah, we're a little jealous of what the southwest corner is getting for rain today.
Okay, we can take questions from Zoom now.
Thank you, Premier. 3 reporters on the call. We'll start with Juliette from Radio Canada.
Yes, hi, bonjour. Est-ce que vous pourriez répéter le nombre de pompiers que vous espérez avoir qui puissent venir en aide dans la province? Puis quand est-ce que vous espérez avoir ces ressources, voir ces ressources arriver?
Oui, certainement. Il y a déjà 40 pompiers qui sont ici du Colombie-Britannique et puis nous remercions cette province pour nous aider. Hier, j'ai parlé en grand détail avec le premier ministre de l'Ontario, M. Ford, pour lui demander d'aide aussi. Et puis, nous espérons d'à peu près 80 plus de pompiers pourront nous joindre par la fin de cette fin de semaine de congé.
Okay, Juliette, did you have a follow-up?
All good for me, thank you.
Okay, merci. Moving next to the Brandon Sun and Alex.
Hi, you had mentioned Altona, Morris, and Steinbach were places that evacuees are going, but is there anywhere else that people are going to, and what's being done to make sure they're safe and taken care of in a new place?
No, definitely there are evacuees in Brandon as well too. And so given the scale of the response here, we're looking at so many communities across the southern part of our province, from Brandon to Winnipeg, Altona, Morris, Steinbach, and others being hosts for evacuees right now. We're doing a lot, and it really depends where folks are coming from. I'd say the large majority of folks who've come to the province from northwestern Ontario will be receiving support from the Canadian Red Cross. One of the challenges is that perhaps not all of those folks are registered with the Red Cross right now, but certainly if they're able to do so, that'll help us be able to match them up with the appropriate level of support. Here in Manitoba, the typical playbook is that the local government, in most cases a municipality, will be there for the first 72 hours, and then we as a province step in with emergency social services, basically, help just covering your costs and making sure you've got a place to stay. And that was certainly the response when we were responding in the PA region. That has been the response in the Lac du Bonnet region. Overnight, though, when we talk about Woodridge and the RM of Piney, there was a quick ask for help there, just saying this situation really requires the province to step in, and so we were responsive to that, and we did so right away. So the emergency social services in that southeastern response is coming from the provincial level, with, again, the local government doing a really important job of going door to door and making sure that folks knew that there was an evacuation and that they were being asked to leave. So really it's a coordinated response, and when you look to the folks up here, the professionals in the nerve center of our provincial response, whether that's EMO or the Wildfire Service, the Office of the Fire Commissioner, or you talk about the people on the front lines, the firefighters, the local government officials, we got to say thanks because they're doing an amazing job.
Do you know? Follow-up? Yeah.
Yes, sorry. Do you know where the people coming to Westman are from, and if there's any other communities that they're coming to in the Westman region, and how many?
Well, at this point, we'll be providing a couple more updates over the course of the day. One of the situations we're dealing with is that people are still in the process of registering. So we'll definitely provide more information as we can. I don't know if you have any specific details to add there, Christine.
More information will come as we learn more and as more people register.
Okay, we'll close things off with the Globe and Mail, Timur Durrani.
Hi, thank you, Premier Kinew, and thank you, Ms. Hayward and Ms. Stevens, for taking our questions today. I'm not sure which of you could answer these questions that I have about the couple, the two people that died near the wildfire in Lac du Bonny. Can you sort of explain to us a little bit? I'm a little confused about this. Where were these two people discovered? Were they discovered in their home? Were they discovered in their car trying to escape? I'm just trying to get an understanding of that.
Well, I can start by saying that the whole province is torn up by this, and we send our sincere condolences. I had the opportunity to speak to the local government leaders, Reeve Lauren Schinkel, who you saw in the media event with the RCMP, the Reeve also, the RM of Alexander, and the town mayor for Lac du Bonny as well too. And speaking to each of them, there's connections. But we also have to be mindful of the RCMP's important work that they're doing. They were very judicious about the information that they shared yesterday, and I think we need to respect that. So certainly the whole province mourns alongside this family and friends and community who are grieving at this time. And part of us extending our sympathies has to mean being patient with what can be shared and talked about publicly.
As a follow-up to that, I just want to make sure, I understand that, Premier. I'm trying to make sure of this partly because, you know, there are other wildfires we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that Lac du Bonny is not the only area impacted in this way. There may be other situations where this type of a concern could arise, where people could be trapped in this way. So I guess as a follow-up, I'm trying to understand, how is it that emergency personnel knew these people were trapped? Did they call them? Did they try to call someone else? How is it that they knew that part? I know that they're being judicious about this, but do the emergency personnel right now that are working on these wildfires in Manitoba know what happened here so that they can learn and make sure this doesn't happen again to other people? I mean, deaths during a wildfire are very uncommon in Canada.
I think there's a lot of awareness amongst the first responders and others involved in the situation about what took place. And I can tell you that at the provincial level, moving from emergency to tragedy at the news of the loss of life is what is guiding the seriousness of our actions today. It's why we're asking Manitobans to work together, which I know we all want to do, to follow these evacuation orders and to stay away from the fire pits this weekend, and to make sure that we're giving space to the first responders out there. I think in this particular situation, I'd point to the comments of the RCMP yesterday. Again, we knew that these two folks needed to be looked for, and as the RCMP shared, when that possibility opened up, that was pursued. And so it just outlines the seriousness when you have the human dimension outlined for you in such stark terms. It doesn't get more serious than loss of life. And in this case, we lost two of our fellow Manitobans. So we're heading into a long weekend that is going to be challenging. You have a flood warning on the west side of the province and numerous out-of-control fires on the eastern side of the province. So what can we do? As the average Manitoban who may just feel caught in the middle, we can work together, what we always do, to respond in emergencies. And we'll get through this period, and we'll do so also by calling on some of our provincial and territorial neighbors for some help and knowing that they'll step up the same way that we step up for them in other times of need.
Thank you, Premier. This concludes Zoom.
Thank you, Zoom. Is there anything further in the room here?
What was the cause of the fire in the Lac du Bonnet area? I know the website says it listed as human activity, but has it been determined the exact cause?
Yeah, I don't think we can really specify too much more beyond what's on the website right now.
Yeah. It's being investigated, so.
I appreciate it's still an active fire zone, but are there any estimates at this point how many structures, homes, cottages have been lost in these fires at all?
Yeah, I think one of the considerations we have when we talk about safety is let's keep each other safe this weekend by observing the state of emergency declared in the Whiteshell. But let's keep our first responders safe too. And part of what that means is because the firefighting situation is so serious, we want to make sure that all of our wildfire firefighters as well as the local firefighters are being kept safe. And so there's an awareness that there's a lot of structures that have been lost. There's a pretty good idea of where those are, but it's not yet safe for us to be able to get in and get that full count. Yeah.
Just
Any
clarifying what
additional-
you've, oh, sorry.
Any additional detail, I know we're still waiting on autopsies, but any additional details you can provide about the 2 people that were found?
Well, I can tell you that they were well loved and will be missed by their friends and coworkers. I heard that from local government officials as well as just the other points of contact that we had. So we send our condolences, and losing 2 of our own as Manitobans, we're flying the flag at half-mast, and we'll be there to support these families and friends and community members through their time of need. And when it comes to information that folks are asking for today, I think the approach we always take is family first. And before families have answers like the ones you're asking questions about, I don't think we can share publicly.
And I'm just trying to clarify what you said sort of about asking Manitobans not to light fires this weekend. Are you enacting a province-wide fire ban? Is that something you can do?
No, there's a number of local fire bans in place, but the point has been made by people who are fighting the fires is it would be great if we don't have to get pulled away from the front lines to deal with a blaze in some other region. So again, it's a May long with no campfires, no bonfires. If we can do that, no fireworks, that would be helpful. It's a very serious situation. We've lost 2 lives in our province. To really underline it, it's going to be a May long that's different in a lot of ways. No bonfires. We'll be asking for rain in all parts of the province, except of course for Westman, where they're dealing with a flood warning. And yeah, we could use some help with the morale on the front lines too. So go Jets, go.
Which fires are threatening the Whiteshell? When you look at the map, the fire by Nopaming is north of it, Ingolf is east of it. Can you be specific?
Yeah, the other thing I would point out is the limited road access into the Whiteshell as a whole, like the limited number of access points, and heading into a long weekend where typically tons of people would be heading into the Whiteshell. So part of this is preventative to ensure that we don't have that large number of Manitobans heading into a region with some threats from wildfire right now, and that's happening against the backdrop of a really, really bad outcome in the Lac du Bonnet region. So the specifics, I don't know, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, so that Kenora 20 fire, the fire near Ingolf, we're going to be calling that Fire 63. That one is the primary risk for what we're calling the Whiteshell. So that would be our main concern for that area at this time. The Bird River fire is a bit north, so it's more impacting the Nopaming Provincial Park area.
And that one's close to.
It is.
Thanks, folks. Good. Can I ask one more? All right. When the time is right, Mr. Premier, will you head up to the Lac du Bonnet area and any other areas affected by fire?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, that might occur today, but again, don't want to get in the way at the same time. So we can keep you in the loop about that. Yeah. All right, thanks so much, everyone.
Thank
Stay safe.